Hello, and welcome back to Music 110. This week, I'm going to be talking about composing melody with MIDI in a digital audio workstation and creating melodic variations using a digital audio workstation. In order to explain and demonstrate that, I'm both going to be talking about MIDI, the technological side of the equation here, but I'm also going to be talking a bit about music theory in order for us to be better equipped for making compositional decisions about melodic writing in the DAW, which is what you're being asked to do for the upcoming song project. So let's get started. As a reminder, last week we were talking about MIDI as part of a much longer history of automated musical instruments. And we looked at the pneumatic automation for the player piano at around 1900. And that, as a reminder, that instrument has what we call a piano roll, which is what you see there on your left. It's a roll of paper that has been perforated. And as the roll is rolled by a mechanism, by a motor, those perforations trigger piano keys to play, to depress, to be pushed down or let up. So as when you look at the piano roll over there on the left, you see all of those perforations, and each of them is on a line that would be associated with a particular pitch, a particular key on the piano. And so when there's a hole in the paper, the key goes down. And if there's no hole, then the key goes back up again. This mechanism and this system is very, very similar to the MIDI editing window in your DAW. So if you look over on the right there, we have a MIDI editing window open. And you can see that on the left over here of the MIDI editing window, we see a layout of piano keys, black and white keys. And as the playhead moves forward in the DAW, you see these blue blocks, and each of these blocks is like a perforation on the piano roll. So as long as there is a block associated with a key to the left, that note will be triggered. So, and as soon as the block ends, the triggering of the note ends. And so when we're thinking about MIDI as a language, as a programming language, the way that the grammar works of it in this language is relatively simple. That you have a set of notes that can be played, 127 of them, and the language is going to send a note number along with a message of whether to turn it on or turn it off, and if you're turning it on, what the velocity should be. The velocity typically is associated with the loudness of the note. So this really grows out of the physical sensation of playing a piano. The faster you push down a key, the louder it is on a piano. So velocity is connected to loudness on the pitches, and then the MIDI will just say turn on note number 67 now with this amount of velocity. Turn it off now. That's it. That's MIDI in simple terms. Now, when we're talking this week about composing melodies and creating variations, remembering how the MIDI editing window is laid out, how the grid that you see there on the right is connected to the pitches that you see associated with the piano keyboard on the left is going to be very important when we start experimenting. But before we start experimenting, we need to do a little bit of music theory. The question that I'm going to ask you now is, what is melody? And what I want you to do is I want you to really think about this for a bit and come up with a definition for it. Melody is a concept that we often sort of take for granted as if we know the meaning of it. But once you start to think about it a little bit more, especially if you're trying to define it, it can be more complex than it seems on the surface. So, what I'm going to ask you to do is take about 3 minutes using your computer or your phone or a piece of paper. Jot down some ideas. I'm going to play this piece. We're going to be listening to this piece. It's a solo flute piece by the French composer Claude Debussy, and it's about 3 minutes long. And as it plays, I would like you to think about the question, what is melody? And I would like you to write down your ideas. See if you can come up with a solid definition of melody that is true in all cases. And as you're thinking, we'll be listening to this flute music. Okay, so what is melody? Take 3 minutes. So, what is melody? Something you might have thought of as you were listening to this and you're trying to come up with a definition is that melody is something that can be sung. And of course, that is true. The parts that are sung that are sung are melodies. However, as we were listening to this solo flute piece, you might have thought, well, but this is also melody. So it's not simply something that is sung, but maybe it has something to do with singing and the fact that we can only sing one note at a time. Something you might have also thought about is melody as something that you would associate with a particular song. So if there is a particular song that has a famous melody, you might say, "Oh yeah, that song," and you would associate that song with a particular melody. So melodies have an identity that differentiates them from one another. But how exactly does that happen? How exactly do we differentiate one melody from another? How are we able to, for example, recognize the melody to the Star-Spangled Banner and say, oh, that's the Star-Spangled Banner, that is the anthem of America, and then listen to the Mexican anthem and hear it as something different? What is it about these melodies that signify to us their uniqueness? And as you're kind of thinking about that, maybe you're thinking about a particular song, and the melody that you associate closely with that song typically would be the chorus, I would say, the hook, the melody that is the most memorable. So then it has maybe has something to do with the line that we associate with a song. But here's another sort of difficulty there. If you think about the chorus or the hook to any pop song, it has a melody, but so does the verse, and so does the bridge. And those might not be as memorable or as strongly associated with the song, but those are also melodies. And here's the really tricky thing. That means that song has more than one melody in it. That song has a melody that's in the chorus, but it also has a melody that's in the verse and a melody that's in the bridge, and maybe somewhere else too. So we have multiple melodies within one piece of music. So melodies are something that it's musical material that can form enough of an identity that we can recognize it as unique compared with other music. Melodies are also not the entire song, not the entire piece. They are just parts of the piece or the song. So let's sort of walk through like a basic definition here, a basic music theory definition here, and I will demonstrate this as we go, and hopefully this will make a little bit more sense. So starting off, melody is a sequence of single notes. If it were a sequence of multiple notes sounded at the same time, we would get chords, right? We would get harmonies. And that would not be melody, that would be harmony. Two or more notes sounded at the same time in sequence. But here, we're talking about melody, and what differentiates melody from harmony is that it is a sequence of single notes. So that works for our definition where it's something sung. It also works for our definition where it's something that can be played on a flute, or it could even be played on an instrument that has the possibility of playing harmonies. When we're thinking about a line that is a sequence of single notes, that could be a melody. The reason I say it could be is that not all sequences of single notes are melodies. Melodies, sequences of single notes that are melodies because they produce in the listener a sense of completeness. Okay, so you might be thinking like, well, what would be incomplete? What would be complete? How could a sequence of notes produce this feeling? Let me see if I can demonstrate for you. So I'm going to sing some melodic material and talk about whether, and see, I'll ask you to feel whether you, ask yourself whether you feel that sequence of single notes produces a sense of completeness or not, and then we'll talk about why it does or why it doesn't. So here we go. Here is the first example. Bum, bum, bum. All right, does that feel complete? It is a sequence of single notes. 3 notes to be precise. The second one is higher than the first, and the third one is a little bit higher than the second. Now, to me, what I just sang, bum, 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 feels like a fragment. It does not feel complete. It does not feel like a complete musical thought. So one way that we can think about melodies is that they're kind of like sentences in language. They have a way of communicating a period at the end. Like, this is a complete thought. And melodies, just like sentences, are then put into an order, something like a paragraph, and then something like a whole piece of writing. What I just sang feels to me like maybe the first couple words of a sentence, but it is not a complete thought. Partially because that sequence of single notes, 3 notes, where the second one is higher than the first and the third one is higher than the second, that could describe so many patterns of notes. Like, there's nothing really definitive about that. So let me sing some other examples. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, now I added a 4th note, and the 4th note, instead of going up like the previous notes did, went down. This feels maybe a little bit more complete, but still it feels a bit like a fragment to me. And it could be that it's only 4 notes long. So let me add something to it. Bum, 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 bum. Now we're getting to maybe a sense of completeness. We have 5 notes, and I've varied the direction in which they step. So I go up, up, down, and then I leap up a larger leap. So I've added notes, and that seems to give me more of a sense of completeness. And I've added changes in direction from one note to the next in this sequence. However, I ended on a note that was different than the note that I started on. Let me sing it one more time. Bum, 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 bum. And ending on that note that is not the note that I started on does give me a bit of a sense of like I'm on the edge of my seat. Like maybe I got to a comma in the middle of the sentence, so to speak. So while it feels more complete than the first two, it still has a sense of incompleteness. Maybe not so much because there weren't enough notes, or I didn't vary the direction in which I was stepping, but because of the note that I ended on and in relation to the note that I began on. So let me give us another example. Bum 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 bum. All right, so if you heard me land on that second to last note and then pause and felt this, like the melody I had sang wanted to return to the note I started on. This emphasizes more this sense of return to where we started that produces a sense of completeness. Bum 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 bum. Right? So that isn't to say that all melodies, in order to create to produce a sense of completeness in the listener, must end on the note that they started on. Though many of them do. Additionally, I should say that intentionally incomplete melodies still rely on our understanding of melody equals completeness for their rhetorical effect. And melodies, there's no requirement that they produce a sense of completeness, right? There are plenty of examples of melodies that intentionally get us as listeners to anticipate the melody closing itself by returning to where it started. But then it doesn't. And it sort of produces this tension, gets us to sit on the edge of our seat. So even those melodies that don't end where they started, they typically are intentionally getting us as listeners to feel as if they are incomplete, to create to produce a sense of tension. One last caveat. All melodies are music. Melodies must be music by definition. But music does not need to be melodic. There are plenty of examples of music that not only that is not melodic at all. There are plenty of examples of music that is just rhythm or just texture or just harmony. If you think about a lot of the sound collages we listen to, they're oftentimes it's not melodic at all. It's sort of like instead a sequence of sources, of textures, of colors, but not producing a musical logic out of single notes. So while we are kind of like thinking about melody in a much more conventional way, this is not to say that there is a requirement that music has melodies. All right, so let's look at one example. This is a well-known melody, and we see a representation of it in musical notation in front of us. Does anyone out there recognize this melody? Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. That's right. This is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And what I'm going to be doing is presenting an analysis of this melody, and then I'll also be demonstrating how to input this melody into a digital audio workstation and then create create melodic variations, create melodic variations of it. But I'm going to start with an analysis of it. After the analysis, we'll go through inputting it into a DAW and then producing variations. So for us to dive into this analysis of it, I'm going to have us listen to and watch the scene from the movie, from the classic movie with Judy Garland. And as you listen and watch the scene, I would like you to pay attention to two things. One, the melody. So, like I said, melodies are not songs. Songs have multiple melodies in them. So, as you're listening, here is what I'd like you to think about. How many times do you hear the main melody? The one that we associate with this song. How many other melodies are also present? When do those other melodies happen? And I would also like you to pay attention to how the scene is shot and pay attention to her performance, particularly not just as a singer but as an actor. So pay attention. So be thinking about like the interpretive decisions that are going on in both the film direction and in her acting, and think about how those decisions relate to the melody itself. So, just as a reminder, here's what you're listening for. How many times does the main melody happen? How many other melodies are there? What order do those melodies come in? And what does the filming and acting have to do with all of this melodic, with all this musical material? So here we go. I'm going to head over to the video and let's enjoy Judy Garland's performance.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
So, first question: were you able to figure out how many other melodies there are? So, the way that this song goes, this piece goes, you have the main melody, the somewhere over the rainbow melody, like somewhere over the rainbow. So that happens, and then it happens again, right? Happens twice. After that, we go to a different section. The next section is where she starts singing about like where something 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 and little blah 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 and da 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 be, right. Then so we get a second melody there. Then we go back to the main melody. We get that one time. And then we sort of get this tag at the end, this like short little fragment. That's where she looks up and you see the sun coming through the clouds. So what we have here is a form. And if we think about the melodies as having their own letters, we have the main melody, which you might call A. We have the second melody, which you might call B. And then we sort of have a tag at the end, which isn't like a complete melody. So the form is AABA. Something you might have noticed as you were watching the performance, when she's in the A sections, she's almost always looking up at the sky. When she gets to the B section, that's when she starts looking down and when she looks at Toto. And then she gets back to the A section and looks at the sky again. So the performance itself helps us to understand the form of the song, the AABA song form. So A, look up again, B, look down at Toto, A, look back up. Now, along with that, I want to point out something I think really remarkable about this super familiar melody. And this melody has, you could kind of think of this as having a foreground and a background. The foreground would be the main melody as we know it, like the sequence of notes. And we see here the musical notation down below, which is the full melody. But I've also added these circles to these pitches that are connected by the dashed lines. And what those are what I would call the background to the melody. So if I were to sing just those circled notes with the dashed lines, this is what it would sound like. Bum, 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 bum. So you can kind of, I mean, I'm sure you could hear that background, or maybe you could even hear the foreground in your head as I was just singing the background shape. And the background shape is you jump up and then you just walk down a scale. And the musical effect of this is, it's very effective musically, but it's also, I think, incredibly effective poetically. If you think about the lyric and you think about, this sort of this yearning or this dreaming about this other place. And if you think about the pitch that she starts on as home, bum, bum. So she jumps up, right? So it'd be like home, somewhere I'm dreaming about, and I'm dreaming about it a little more, and now I'm dreaming about it, yeah. But now I'm realizing that I'm just back on the farm, right? So that long walk down really fits with what's going on in the story. Okay, let's now take what we're gonna do is put this melody into a DAW. And there are a couple ways that I can put this melody into a DAW. One would be to perform it, and that's what I'm going to do first. And then you'll also understand how I could input this melody directly into the MIDI editing window. So I'll go over both techniques. To perform it, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using my computer keyboard like an electronic keyboard. And all DAWs have this function. There are different ways that you can access this function. But if you just kind of look up your DAW and QWERTY MIDI input, QWERTY being that's the type of key, it's like the keyboard, not the musical keyboard, but the typing keyboard. And if you look down at this virtual MIDI keyboard, you'll see that these letters are corresponding to specific keys, to specific notes. So, and they lay out onto the computer keyboard exactly, like very similar to how they would lay out on a piano, where you have white notes on the middle line of letters, and you have black keys on the top line of letters. Okay, so let's just go through how you would do this in a digital audio workstation. So here I am in Luna. What I'm going to do is create a new, this is a brand new session. I'm going to create a new instrument track. I'm going to use the shape instrument. I'm going to call this Rainbow. And I'm going to, let's see here. I'm going to, maybe I'll just use a Celeste here. And so I have my instrument loaded up. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how to input this melody by playing it using the keyboard, the computer keyboard. Now, in order to do that in Luna, first thing I'm going to have to do is click on View, and then I'm going to click on MIDI keyboard mode. Different DAWs are going to have, in order to access this keyboard, it's going to be very different on different DAWs. So if you're not using Luna, just look it up on the internet. It should be really easy to find. So as soon as I clicked on MIDI keyboard mode, you can already see up here it gave me this keyboard layout that's telling me which letter on my computer keyboard is connected to which note. So, if I have this rainbow track selected, if I press A, we should hear a C. All right. This Celeste is kind of quiet. Maybe I'll choose a different instrument here. Something that has got some more oomph. Let's use an organ. Gospel 1. Let's see how this sounds. I like it. Okay. So in order to record, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to turn off the loop function here. I'm going to press this red button here. And what just happened is it gave me a count off. So when I hear that click, that's giving me 4 beats before I'm gonna start. You'll notice that if I press it again, you'll see that you'll hear the clicking, but you won't see the playhead move, and then the clicking will stop and the playhead will start moving. So pay attention to that. So that's giving me sort of like that's giving me a count off. It's kind of like the drummer going 1, 2, 3, 4, start, right? Now, if I want the click to continue, I need to turn on my metronome. So under this click, if I select this, it's supposed to look like a metronome, and that clicking will continue at once recording starts. So I should still get 4 for nothing, or 4 where it's not recording, and then it will start. Let's just test to make sure. Okay, great. Now, the tempo of this click to me feels a little bit fast, right? Because dun 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 dun, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. It's kind of fast. I'm going to slow it down, and the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to change the BPM. So beats per minute. So the lower the beats per minute, the slower the tempo of the music is going to be. So if I take it down to 80, let's try that. This might be a little too slow, but here's the thing with MIDI is I can record a little slow and then I can increase the tempo, and it will, because all of my MIDI notes are snapped to the grid, it'll just adjust accordingly. So sometimes I like to record MIDI slower and then speed up the BPM on the track. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this using the QWERTY keyboard. Hopefully, I do okay. It's not the easiest to do, but I'm going to go for it, and then I probably will make some mistakes, and I'll be able to show you guys how to fix those mistakes and how to do some basic editing of melodic material. So here we go. I'm going to press record. I'm going to hear 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to start. Okay. Yeah, I'm already making mistakes. So in order to make this video, I have some latency issues where the sound comes out much like well after I've pressed the key. Let me try this one more time. It's kind of challenging, but I'll try this one more time, and then we'll edit it and we'll get it right. All right. Again, really difficult when the sounds are coming out well after you press the keys. Now, but I've got something that the notes are mostly right, but the rhythms aren't great. So what we can do now is we can take a look at this MIDI clip, and we can correct it. We can adjust the notes as necessary. So what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to keep the click on, and I'm going to listen to what I've got, and then I'm going to correct it and explain how I'm going about correcting it. Okay. Not bad actually. So here's the first trick that I can do. In this MIDI clip, if I click, see where it says Q? I'm going to click on Q. Now, what Q is quantize. And what quantizing is going to do is it's going to automatically adjust the beginnings of these notes to the nearest grid point that I tell it to adjust to. So you can see that already there are like some notes here that are off of the click, that are off of the metronome. For instance, this note here. If we play that measure, you'll hear the last two notes are slow. They're behind. Do you hear that? How they're slow? They are behind the click. I want those notes to be right on the click. This note here should be in between the click. So the click is happening on quarter notes, 4 beats per measure. I'm going to switch this to eighth notes because I know that I have some notes that come in between the beat, and they come right halfway between the beat. So the measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the measure is being divided into 4, right? Now, if I sing the rhythm 1, 2, 3, 4, da, 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 right? So I have some notes that are coming right in between the quarter beats, and so just like with fractions in math, those are on the eighth beats. So if I quantize everything to eighth beats, to eighth notes, that way it should be pretty close to what the rhythm is supposed to be. So let's listen to that. Okay, it gets a little off at the end there, but you can see when I clicked, so I click on Q, and then I clicked on 8, and it nudged everything over to the nearest eighth note. Quantizing in other DAWs will be slightly different, but no matter what DAW you're in, quantize always means the same thing, and that will be the term that the DAW uses. Okay, so now I'm getting closer. This note here is a little short. I can drag it. Ooh, I should not have done that. Let me undo. I have all the notes selected. I want to make sure that I'm only selecting in this one note. And this kind of feels a little short. I'm going to make it take that whole space. I missed a note here. So let's play from just those first couple measures. I missed a note there. So what I can do is I can also just input a note by double clicking on this key here. I know that this is the note that I started on. I go back to this note here in the melody. If I double click, I can just create a note that way. So I do not need to use the QWERTY keyboard to input all my notes. I can also just double click directly onto the piano roll. Similarly, when I got to this part of the melody, I needed to go down to a lower note that is not on my QWERTY keyboard. The lowest note that I can play is this C, but I needed to go down to an A below it. So I couldn't do that there. I had to just like skip it. So I can put that note in there. And now we're going to go over here to where I really started to mess up. And and what I'm going to do is I know that if I'm just looking at these and I know what needs to be adjusted. I'm just going to do that really quickly. Now, notice what, but for you, the thing to be paying attention to is how I'm making these adjustments. So each of these notes are I can grab individually and I can stretch and I can move around just by grabbing them and stretching them, just like I would be stretching an audio clip. So it's kind of like these notes are like clips within clips. Now, let's see here. I'm just going to play this and listen to it and see what I need to do to fix it. Okay. Ah, okay. So I was struggling here because I wanted to input a MIDI note and have it land on one of these eighth notes in between the beats. Excuse me. But as you might have noticed, when I double clicked on one of these, so in other words, I want the note to this note that's highlighted here. I want it to start right where the note underneath it ends, but it won't let me do that. Like if I drag it to this way, it goes straight over to the line to the right. And if I drag it that way, it goes straight to the line to the left. And the reason is that I am snapping to quarter notes on my grid. If I switch to eighth notes here, this will allow me to make this note start where I want it to. So that's something to be paying attention to. You can when you quantize notes within a MIDI clip, that doesn't mean that like you would also want to adjust the grid, and you have to do that in a second over here in this window over here. This may or may not be true for your DAW if you're not using Luna. Okay, so here we go. All right, I'm almost there. I just need to move this over here. And that gives me the whole melody. So now I have it. And what I was able to do is, as a reminder, I was able to perform it directly into the DAW using the record function. After I recorded it, I clicked on Cue or Quantize to automatically move the pitches to the nearest grid line. And then I was able to move notes around by dragging them or by creating new notes and clicking them in. Let's see what I've come up with. And now that I have it in there, I think I'm going to bring up the tempo a little bit. Let's take a listen to it. Oop. Beautiful. Great. Now, let's go back over to PowerPoint, and I want to show you something important about the relationship here between notated music and MIDI. So, now, this is obviously not a music theory class, and we don't have the time to go deep into reading musical notation. In fact, we're not really going to do much with musical notation. However, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the piano keyboard, there are so many visual representations of the piano keyboard in digital audio workstations. So understanding about black keys and white keys can be really useful when you're programming within the DAW. So what you see here is musical notation, and you'll notice that you've got all of these letters that are associated with particular notes. And in Western music, the notes that we have are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's it. Once you get to the next A, you're an octave up. And that octave is a 1-to-2 frequency ratio. So in other words, an octave up is, if you're thinking about frequency, the amount of wiggles in the air per second, it is exactly twice. So that's why we call octaves the same pitch, because they're so closely related mathematically. Now, when you're looking at the pitches that are in front of you, those are all of the white keys on a piano. So if you're to sit down at a piano and only play white keys, you would play those pitches that you see in front of you. And you would be playing in the key of C major. Then there are the black keys. And the black keys, we call either sharps or flats. And the reason that we call something a sharp or a flat can be really complicated. But the important thing to know now is that black keys are sharps or flats. White keys are not. They're just a letter without a sharp or a flat. Now, here is the MIDI window that has the Somewhere Over the Rainbow melody. And I've got it pretty much linked up, like matched up with the musical notation. Now, if you look closely, it's really similar. Like reading the MIDI window, reading MIDI in a digital audio workstation is almost exactly like reading musical notation. So, right? Like that, when you see that first pitch in the musical notation, which is on that first line underneath the staff, that sort of floating line, that is always going to be, well, C3. So we see that C3 happen 3 times in the MIDI window, and that correlates with the 3 times that we see it in the musical notation. And you can also see how the whether the dots, the note heads, are filled in or not, or whether the stems on the note heads have flags or are connected with those lines, will also tell you, well, how much of the grid is being used by that particular note. So not only is the MIDI window like a lot like a piano roll from the from the player piano, but it's a lot like Western musical notation. All right. Now, I'm going to demonstrate one last thing before I finish today, which is creating melodic variations. And this is what I'm going to be asking. This is what I'm asking you to do for the discussion post this week. So let's say that the melody that I'm creating a variation on is the Somewhere Over the Rainbow melody. And here I have the melody. Now, if I'm going to make some variations on that, I can do that really quite simply. So if I select this, MIDI clip, and then again, if you remember going to the edit in Luna, if I go to the edit workflow, I can, for example, click duplicate. If you're in another DAW, there are like oftentimes just pressing D will duplicate it, or you can copy and paste it. But now I have a second, I'm repeating the Somewhere Over the Rainbow melody, but I can create a variation. So I know that this is my original melody, and now I'm going to sort of like, okay, well, what do I want to vary? So I can vary what are the things I can vary? I can vary the pitches, like I can move the pitches around. I can vary the rhythms, and that's about it. So the point is to create something that is a variation, but not a brand new melody. So I could go in here and just move all of these pitches around totally at random, and it would no longer really be a variation. It'd be like a brand new melody. It wouldn't be something it wouldn't be connected to the Somewhere Over the Rainbow melody. But there are certain things that I can do to create a variation. So let's say, in order to do this, I might start by just listening to maybe these first couple of measures here, and I'm going to loop them. And then I'm going to go in there and just start moving things around and see what I can come up with. So. All right, so here I was adding some notes in here. I was choosing notes that were white keys because I know that this melody doesn't have any sharps or flats. So I was just choosing white keys almost at random, kind of making new little neighbors to these pitches. Something else I could do would be taking one of these long notes and making multiple notes happen within the long note. So, all right. So maybe with this, I could create like something like this. So remember that this note lasted for this entire measure, and I just kind of added this sort of sequence of notes that walks around it. So now it sounds something like this. So I think you kind of get the idea here on what is possible by adding new notes. Something else I could do would be taking notes away. So maybe I could try that with one of these final measures. So let's try this by going. I mean, I could, like, let's say I just erase these notes here. Let's see what this sounds like. So maybe I kind of like that. Like, I like putting these pauses in there. I take that out there too, and I get something like this. So I can add notes. I can take notes away, and I could also do things like maybe compress the melody. So let's say I wanted to take these pitches, make this kind of all happen much faster. So then this whole melody would sound something like this. Now, for what you're working on, I would encourage you to go even further, be more experimental with creating these variations, see how far you can push it, see if you can, create something that is even further separated from the original melody, and have fun with it. I'm looking forward to hearing your melodic variations. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.